Gulf Coast, specifically in Steinhatchee. We are on your side, tracking Debbie live with your most accurate forecast.
Right now, parts of the First Coast seeing impacts from Hurricane Debby. We are continuing to track active storm watches and any damage that comes into our area, as well as damage from around the state.
And Debbie shaking up back-to-school plans. We know that we are on your side, of course, with a breakdown of closures expected across our First Coast throughout the morning.
Good morning to you. I'm Katie Jeffries.
Hey, welcome in. We appreciate you waking up with us. Of course, we're tracking Debbie for you. Hurricane Debbie, a Category 1. It has made landfall. I'm Keitha Nelson here. So we know overnight the storm strengthened into a Category 1 again in the Gulf of Mexico and made landfall in Steinhatchee right before 7 this morning.
So here are the 3 things you should know about Hurricane Debby right now. So number 1, at this time, the storm is making its way over the Big Bend. Like Keitha said, just made landfall around 7 o'clock this morning. The state is under a state of emergency due to the storm, and there are a number of closures across the First Coast and Southeast Georgia. Those scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can also text closures to us and we can send you back a list.
We're expecting to hear from Governor DeSantis at about 7:26 this morning. Of course, we're bringing it to you live right here on Good Morning Jacksonville. And this morning we're on your side with a team of reporters tracking the storm from Lake City to San Marco and all the way up to Brunswick there with Jessica Clark. And we have team coverage, a team of meteorologists with us here as well. Meteorologist Robert Spetta, meteorologist Louis Turner standing by, keeping us aware of what's going on, what we need to know. Hopefully everyone is prepared. We've been warning them for about a week now that this was coming.
For sure, and the good thing is we've had landfall, all right? So no more strengthening. Now we just kind of watch and wait for the spin-ups that are occurring here with this pretty big system. I mean, look, a really impressive tropical storm that became a hurricane as it made its way through the Gulf of Mexico. Still at that Category 1 is the latest update, but we anticipate that to weaken very quickly now that the eye wall has made its way and the eye itself has made its way onshore. Latest forecast cone, still the Hurricane Center going with that trek up with a stall out near the coast of Savannah or Charleston, just off that coast, low country of South Carolina, before dumping a lot of rain. And if Charleston, South Carolina, a place you've ever visited, if you've ever been, I mean, if they get more than 6-7 inches, they've got some pretty bad catastrophic flooding in their downtown area. They essentially sit in a bowl, think like New Orleans. So if they get a foot, my goodness, or more. Some forecasts had 20 to 30 inches. There's going to be historic level things they don't really know how to deal with. So where you see here, this is our radar right now, where you see everything in yellow, that is your tornado watch, which is going to continue through the afternoon. With each one of these feeder bands, as they come on shore, friction with land causes the spin up to occur and causes these EF0 tornadoes, which provide a good bit of gusty condition. All right, so where all roads lead. Ever been to Steinhatchee before? Lovely place to do some scalloping, some snorkeling, scuba diving, just a great boating community. And you couldn't get more centered up over that community right now with the eye. So landfall has happened officially. Now the worst coming for Lake City, a pretty heavy band. We're going to have the center of that storm itself make its way right up Highway 41, moving through High Springs towards Lake City. Lake Butler getting hammered with some rain right now, and also watching. Now it's lifted north of Fernandina towards St. Mary's, Kingsland, Woodbine now. Good morning, Woodbine. You are right there on the leading edge of this next feeder band for you. So heavy downpours, gusty winds, talking about 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, maybe even higher as we get into Woodbine. Brunswick, you are getting that cell. We're going to check in with Jessica Clark here in just a minute. This cell that had moved offshore, onshore there across St. Simon's Island. So you kind of see how this pretty hard left turner there. You notice the general motion of this feeder band up more towards the northeast. This one coming pretty hard in, so that indicates to me either a little bit of rotation, which has not been warned, or a really strong gusty wind scenario. So we'll get some eyeballs on that and verification with Jess here in just a few moments. But the thing you got to take away from this, historic rainfall in southeast Georgia. So much rain today, the roads are going to be very, very wet. We got to check on that commute this morning. It is 7:05. We are doing extended coverage this morning on Good Morning Jacksonville. We have Katie Jeffries in the UF Health Traffic Center.
Hey, good morning. So a couple things to remember if you do have to head out today. Please try to minimize your driving. Hydroplaning risk is high, so be cautious, and all bridges are currently open. So taking a look, I-95 near University, you got a crash over here in the right shoulder, so please be cautious. Look out for those road rangers there on scene. It's definitely causing a delay towards the downtown area, so something to be aware of, but this is probably what we're going to be seeing throughout the day. Also, a along I-10, eastbound and westbound, very close to the Columbia-Baker line. You've got a possible tree down and debris on the roadway. And again, that's on both sides, so we are seeing some delays in that area. Please, again, be cautious if you are headed out today, because there could be debris. There could be down power lines, especially those of you out towards the Lake City area getting kind of more intense effects of the storm. So we'll keep watching. Anything else comes in, we'll let you know.
And this morning we continue our team coverage with a look at things out in Lake City. Now, that's an area set to experience tropical storm strength winds. We have Drew Cosgrave standing by right now. He joins us live in Lake City, where, as we can see, the rain is really coming down at this hour. Drew.
Yes, that's right, Keith. The rain is coming down and the wind is only intensifying. And they're right, you know, the debris has already begun on the street. And if I walk down the street, you can see the flooding has already begun. We were driving around downtown Lake City earlier, and the lights near the gas station, they were flickering. Our car was shaking back and forth. But look at this. This is a tree that fell down on the street. And if you look where the snap of the branch was, we don't really know. I mean, we can assume that this happened from the wind, but this just shows you just how powerful these wind gusts are. Governor DeSantis is set to address the state at 7:30 a.m. We're going to be on air for the next hour or so, but we'll keep you updated as we learn more. And as you can see, I'm right here next to the tree. But yeah, this is Drew Cosgrave in Lake City. First Coast News on your side. We'll keep you updated.
All right, Drew, thank you very much. Now, for those of you who have been in Jacksonville for a while, you know there are certain areas around Jacksonville that tend to flood. Riverside, some parts of McCoy's Creek, San Marco, and that's where, of course, Claire Alfrey is.
She's standing by right now live for us this morning for a look at things in that area. Claire, we saw behind you just about an hour ago already. We saw some, there it is, some flooding in the streets.
That's right, Katie and Keith. Good morning. City workers are now joining us here in San Marco on LaSalle Street, right by the intersection behind me of San Marco Boulevard. And take a look at just this flooding that we're seeing on the streets. Currently, they are pumping it out, and also wastewater trucks have also joined us on scene here. But the standing water is impacting all of the drivers here on their morning commute. Specifically, they're having to go out of their lane just to avoid all the standing water and hydroplaning. And this comes as a result of the excessive rainfall we're seeing from Hurricane Debby. Now, yesterday, Mayor Donna Deegan did issue a local state of emergency, causing a lot of government buildings and DCPS to be shut down. Now, in response to those schools being shut down, we do have shelters in place at Landmark Middle School and the Lavelle School of Performing Arts. And Chief Powers of JFRD has worked with partners with JTA to make sure there are free buses to get to those shelters. But this is what Chief Powers, this is some of his concerns with the excessive rainfall and wind that we're seeing right now here in Duval County.
We have 2 swiftwater rescue teams that will be staged strategically on each side of the river in case we have flooding, that they can go into those areas and make those rescues.
Now, talking about flooding, I know that JFRD has those crews stationed around the St. Johns River, so he's being really mindful of places like here, San Marco, and Riverside. Reporting in San Marco, Claire Alfrey, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, Claire, and you heard her mention shelters just a moment ago, but let's go over that information again. So the city of Jacksonville is also opening 3 emergency shelters. City leaders made the decision to open them due to the risk of flooding and high winds. So here are the locations. There's a general population shelter at La Villa School of the Arts. People who need special assistance, though, medical needs, or maybe you have pets, you can go to Landmark Middle School or the Legend Center.
Early voting was supposed to start today in Duval County for Florida's primary election, but it was pushed back due to the storm. Now, early voting is set to start on Wednesday. That's August 7th.
And in anticipation of Hurricane Debby, the Jags have closed today's practice to fans. Now, they plan on still practicing as scheduled. It's just closed to fans. There are only 3 open camp dates remaining, August 7th, 8th, and 12th. You can register for those practices at jags.com.
We have an update on school closures in Southeast Georgia this morning. Students in Charlton and Pierce counties were set to begin their school year today, but due to the impacts of Hurricane Debby, both school districts have announced they will be closed today and Tuesday. Now, the first day back for students is now set for Wednesday. The districts say that they will provide any updates if necessary. We'll bring it to you right here on First Coast News.
We're on your side with updates about trash pickup schedules here on the First Coast. If you live in Duval County, today you can plan for normal trash pickup. Public Works officials say they will monitor the storm to see if Tuesday's pickup should be moved to Wednesday. In Clay and Alachua counties today, and all trash and recycling pickups as well as new garbage can deliveries will be suspended. As of now, services are set to resume on Tuesday depending on storm damage.
Right now, we have an article on our website, firstcoastnews.com, with storm cancellations. We noticed a lot of information, but it is listed for you right now also on our First Coast News app. And we can also send it to you directly to your phone. All you have to do is text the word closures to 904-633-2402 and make sure to bookmark that page because we will be updating it with more closures as soon as they are announced within our area.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has issued a state of emergency ahead of Debby. The storm is expected to impact south central Georgia, southeast coastal Georgia, and Governor Ron DeSantis has already issued a state of emergency in Florida.
In just a few minutes, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is set to hold a press conference ahead of Hurricane Debby's landfall. Well, we know it did make landfall in Steinhatchee right before 7 this morning. The press conference is set to take place in Tallahassee at 7:30. You can find that news conference in just a few minutes right here on Good Morning Jacksonville.
And of course, we're continuing to track this storm system. Here's the latest look on the radar. This did make landfall at the top of the hour, but the worst of the weather is out ahead of it. So let's break this down county by county so you know what to expect throughout this morning. Already, we are seeing some downed trees reported out there into the Lake City area where you could be looking at winds maxing out over the course of about the next hour or two, 40 to maybe up to 70-mile-per-hour gusts, 8 to 13 inches of rainfall, and yeah, a spin-up tornado is still possible. Then moving over towards Duval County here into Jacksonville, the rain already starting to pile up. We are seeing some pooling in the roadways here. Well, those winds could be maxing about 20 to 40 miles per hour, still that isolated tornado threat. So one of those things you just want to keep your devices charged here through this morning, even heading into this evening as this storm just kind of lingers in our area. Glenn, Canada, and Nassau County through our morning and heading into tomorrow because this storm could be stalling out in your area. We're going to be looking at that rain continuing to pile up. But this is another thing we've been tracking over the course of about the last hour, some storms just offshore, which has been moving onshore, and those even showing a little bit of rotation in them. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a tornado warning. Something we're expecting. We continue to remain in a tornado watch through this evening. Clay and Putnam County through today. You're still going to be looking at those winds upwards about winds upwards about 20 to 30 miles per hour, 3 to 5 inches. So you're not getting the worst of it, but you still could be even looking at that potential for a tornado threat. Of course, we're still tracking this and we want to know how long it's going to last. I'll give you that 7-day forecast here in just a few minutes.
Officials with Florida Power and Light tell us they are ready to respond, while FPL says that getting crews ready ahead of the storm is important.
And of course, we're continuing to watch this, but just one more thing. I'll show you here on the velocity real quick. There's some of that rotation just offshore of our coastal Georgia counties. We're going to talk more about that as well as we continue to remain under this tornado watch from our storm as well.
And out towards I-10, be careful. You could see some debris down, some tree down along I-10 between kind of the Columbia and Baker line there along I-10 eastbound. So we will keep watching this very closely. Anything else comes in, we'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, doing a mic check for you from Brunswick, where the sunlight is apparent, and we are across the
Well, your time right now is 7:16 as Hurricane Debby approaches Florida's Big Bend, or rather it's made landfall now. Florida Power and Light is ready to respond.
FPL has pre-positioned crews and equipment throughout our area, including in Lake City. The company says getting crews in place ahead of the storm helps to speed up restoration efforts.
This storm has the potential to cause widespread outages, and we will be working around the clock to restore power safely and as quickly as possible.
Well, FPL urges customers to finalize their preparations, keep safety top of mind by staying away from flooded areas, and especially stay away from any down power lines.
From Miami to the First Coast, Hurricane Debby has already caused delays and cancellations for travelers at the airport. Now, weather conditions have left dozens of airline passengers stranded this weekend. Travelers stuck at Miami International Airport Sunday, they expressed their frustrations over facing multiple delays and flight cancellations. For those headed to New York, most people have been told they can't leave until Tuesday.
Right now, flights at Jacksonville International Airport are being impacted as well. At this time, FlightAware says there are 34 canceled flights out of Jacksonville so far and 9 delays. In a post on social media, the airport says it will remain open as long as airlines continue to operate. But you are urged to check your flight status before traveling.
And this morning, we continue to look at Debby's impacts on both Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. Glynn County, they're preparing for what could be historic flooding in some parts of that county, particularly the Isles.
So a lot to watch there, especially with the causeway with the Sidney Lanier. Jessica Clark is in that area. She's in Brunswick. So what are you seeing? It definitely looks like the rain's picking up.
Yeah, you know, it's a steady rain, and that has just kind of increased over the last hour to be a little bit more, or steadier, and then a little bit harder and harder. But I'm going to go under this awning here by Brown's Antiques. Check this out. Sandbags lining the entire storefront, and not just sandbags, but if you go all the way here, I'm going to get a little closer to you. So sandbags have plastic bags underneath them. Whoever did this sandbagging knew what he or she was doing and has done this before, because this is so smart. The water, if you just have sandbags, sometimes can still slip right through the sandbags, but with this plastic sheeting underneath, this person has done it in a very smart way. So in Brunswick, which is a city that is 14 feet above sea level, very, very close to the level of the surrounding waters, it has a tendency to flood, especially in this downtown area. Just talked with a man who works in one of the shops just around the corner. He said, oh yeah, this place floods. And so they're anticipating that to take place with this particular storm in a city that is really on a peninsula of land. The water is all around, and with more water coming down from the sky, certainly could flood. We're live in Brunswick. Jessica Clark, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Jess, thank you. And she is here, Brunswick, right? In fact, on Highway 17, got St. Simon's Island, we got the causeway out to Jekyll. So a lot of rain happening there, and actually, as you're noting, we got a line about to move right through her area.
Yeah, decent little rain band, just one of them that we're expecting to move on through, but you see, it didn't look too rough there for Jessica, but give it about maybe 20 minutes. I think, you know, not a destructive rain band, but definitely going to be picking up with some of that heavier rainfall out there. All right,
let's go full. Let's take a look at the rest of our area. I did want to note what was about to hit through Glynn County into Brunswick. A lot of rainfall happening up Highway 17, up I-95. It's one of those things that you just don't want to get on the road. Katie will check in with you in just a minute, looking at those roads. But you getting on 95 is just a tough thing to do on a day like today. If you got to do it, I hate it for you. But if you have the choice and you are able to avoid the work, so to speak, you would just stay at the house and just watch it from the TV or your app. So bigger picture look now as we had focused in on where Jessica was in Brunswick. This just kind of absorb, think about where you live, where are you on the map, right? Let's just kind of pick out your county, and we got the time now, so let's just think. If you look there, you see anywhere under the yellow shading here, we've got a tornado watch. So that means at any given point through the duration of this storm, the hurricane that has now made landfall, we could get a tornado warning going. Any one of these red, yellow, orange cells spinning on shore, as you see where landfall occurred, Steinhatchee. Now officially we have a storm that has made its way on land, and now no more strengthening can occur, at least while on land. So Lake City, now a pretty good band, a pretty good expanding area of showers and storms happening right up Highway 41, up the 75 corridor. Goodness, it's just almost like impossible to even make that trip up to up and down 75. I'm being told we got a little something happening right now, Robert. Was I getting signaled?
Yeah, you know, if you're just looking at Lake City, currently got 35-mile-per-hour winds out there, sustained about 20. So we did see some of those downed trees as well reported here. But I just want to note, you know, kind of not only looking at our current radar, but our Futurecast here, giving you an idea as this pulls towards the north and east with, you know, Jacksonville. If you step outside right now, you're going, where's this hurricane? We're hearing a hurricane right now. It is not there yet. I don't expect hurricane conditions in Jacksonville, but what we are going to be seeing is those winds picking up throughout the day, kind of the heaviest as we go ahead through this afternoon and maybe closer to about dinner time before things taper off heading into tonight. But for our friends in the Brunswick, we're just starting to see things pick up there, as Lou was just showing you on the radar, and that is going to continue even heading into tomorrow as this storm slows down and almost stalls out with those bands on the back side of it. So, you know, we're still looking at the impacts this morning, but this could be a long duration event. It's, we've been saying this is not a sprint. It is a marathon, a little alluding to our Olympic coverage on the other side of the world. Hey, if you are in Lake City, though, different model guidances kind of showing you the consensus here that the winds are probably going to be peaking as we go ahead to about the 10, 11 o'clock hour, tropical storm strength, before they slowly taper off as we look ahead into tonight, into tomorrow. So if you're out there, winds maxing about 40 to 70 miles per hour. We are going to be looking at that heavy rainfall all throughout the day today. So I hopefully you've secured your items by now as the storm's already on top of you. And if you're in Duval County, of course, still going to be looking at that heavy rain, but those winds could be peaking. Still with gusts up to tropical storm strength, about 24 miles per hour. Enough to maybe toss some lawn furniture, but really the worst of it's going to be further off towards west. And still enough rain and enough messy conditions to cause some traffic concerns. So let's talk to Katie Jeffries here in the UFF Traffic Center.
Definitely have some traffic concerns here. So let's start with a look along I-95 on the northbound side near University. So you can see you've got a crash in the right shoulder. It looks like drivers are moving over to give them some space, but that is causing some congestion as people are trying to make their way towards downtown this morning. And you could also see the ponding that was on the roadway this morning from all of the rain. Now, we did just get in a report of some debris on the roadway. This is just south of the Lake Butler area along Southwest 121. Again, just south of Lake Butler. Hearing a tree is down, and you can see heavy delays here along 121 in the area. So something to be aware of. Out towards Lake City, like Robert and Lou have been talking about, we are seeing trees and debris down on the roadway along I-10, eastbound and westbound, primarily on the eastbound side at this point. Possible a tree is down near the Columbia-Baker line. So be careful in that area. Be cautious there. We've been seeing on and off delays building. Also a crash along I-10 eastbound just outside of Lake City as well. Minimize your travel today as best you can. Hydroplaning is definitely a concern, so be cautious. And all of the bridges are open at the moment, but still, please try to stay home. Minimize your travel if you can.
And welcome back. Look at this,
Man.
just into the First Coast News newsroom. This is video of the impacts of Hurricane Debby as the storm just made landfall in Taylor County, Florida. This is right in the Big Bend area. This is video taken on an FDOT camera. As you can see, the winds really whipping there. We can see the power lines as well, just shaking back and forth, as well as those stop lights there. It's a situation where we're going to be on air with you throughout the morning, of course, and online, bringing you the very latest updates. Be careful out there.
Honestly shocked they still have power in those conditions. Right now, flights at the Jacksonville International Airport are being impacted. The number keeps increasing at this time. FlightAware says there are 40 canceled flights out of Jacksonville and 14 delays. Now, to post on social media, the airport says it will remain open as long as the airlines continue to operate, but you are urged to check your flight status before traveling.
Our storm did make landfall right at 7 o'clock with our Hurricane Debby here just around the Big Bend area right near Steinhatchee. Now, as it moves off towards the east, of course, we still have tropical storm warnings in place all across the First Coast. Worst of the weather where you would call the eye wall is passing just now around Branford and Dowling Park and across the city. In fact, we'll just kind of look right in here. I'm going to remove some of the clutter, and you can see that it's going to be nearing Live Oak around 7:55, Lake City about 8:42. That's when we're expecting kind of those max winds, upwards about 60. Gusts could be near 70 miles per hour, enough to douse some down trees and maybe some power outages. So that is really the line we're going to be watching for down trees and things like that. In the broader picture, though, it is still windy all across the First Coast, even as near some gusty conditions near the coast at about 30 miles per hour. Not quite destructive, but still we're going to be watching these bands as they kick on by, even for that threat of some tornadoes as well. And just looking at our hour-by-hour Futurecast, you can see how this tracks towards the east. Max winds into the Jacksonville area won't take place till about this afternoon, heading into the evening before this starts to drift off towards north and kind of lingers across parts of southeastern Georgia. So is it going to rain today in Jacksonville and across the First Coast? Yeah. Every single hour we have rain in the forecast. Thus, it is a weather impact alert day here. And of course, we're going to continue to stay with you here at First Coast News. Not only this morning, but of course, the whole team is in today, continuing to track it for you. St. John's and Flagler County, you may not be getting the worst of it, but you're still going to be looking at the potential for some tornadic cells that could be developing here with winds about 15 to 30 miles per hour along our coast. While throughout the day here into Ware, Charlton, Brantley, and Pierce County, I do want to watch out for that tornado threat. In fact, just taking one more look at the radar, I'm going to pull this up real quick for you here, just kind of showing you what we have off here towards the north. And it's these individual cells just towards the east end of Brunswick and Fernandina that I want to pay a close attention to, because within those, especially as they near the coast, you could start to see some rotation due to friction as this comes on shore. And in fact, let's just pull up the velocity real quick for you. And we'll just take a quick look at kind of what we're seeing. Yeah, right in here. There's even a few areas with that potential for a couplet. One right in here and another right in there. Does that mean there's a tornado? No. And these are still offshore, so they would be water spouts. But these are the areas we're watching right now at this very moment for the potential for anything coming onshore. Of course, continuing to track this storm.
And please try to minimize your travel. We're seeing quite a few crashes and debris on the roadway. This is a look towards I-95 near University. Just before you get to Emerson, you got a crash over there in the right shoulder, and it looks like maybe one right lane there blocked as well. But a lot of ponding on the roadway at this point, and you can see the delays along 95 northbound to get into downtown. We do have a report of a tree down along 121 near Lake Butler, just south of Lake Butler, and we have been seeing on and off delays there on State Road 121 as well, so something to be aware of. But Lake City, really watching you closely because of debris and trees that have been reported down on your roadways. On Long I-10, we have a possible tree down. We're hearing that Governor Ron DeSantis is speaking. Let's listen in.
To track very, very similar to Hurricane Idalia 11 months ago. The maximum sustained winds for Debby have reached 80 miles an hour with higher gusts throughout the storm area. To contrast that with Idalia, Idalia reached close to 120 mile per hour in sustained winds. We have seen significant storm surge. We have seen inundation. We have seen and will continue to see flooding in various parts of the state of Florida. This storm is expected to move throughout north central Florida and likely go into Georgia and in the Carolinas. Yesterday and into this morning, we saw impacts throughout the west coast of Florida, starting in southwest Florida and continuing up the coast. This storm has produced and will likely produce significant flooding events from Sarasota, Bradenton area all the way up to northern Florida. And that's not something that just happens when the storm passes. There's a threat, ongoing threat of that over the ensuing days. Now that Hurricane Debby is making landfall, the most important thing to do is to just protect yourself and protect your family. Don't go out into this storm. Don't drive on the roads, particularly when they're flooded. We have had some traffic mishaps over the last 12 hours. And when you have flood situations, that is the number one way where we will see fatalities, is by people being out on the roads and hydroplaning or having other problems. So do not go walk or drive into flooded roadways. There are hazards there. They're dangerous. We want everybody to be safe. Power. So far, we have about 143,000 Floridians without power. We have a lot of restoration personnel ready to go to get it back on. I think because this is a Category 1 with 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds, the total number of power outages are not going to reach the level that they did with Hurricane Idalia, and certainly not the level that they did with Hurricane Ian back in 2022. But we do have 17,000 linemen that are ready to assist with restoring power immediately. And I know a lot of the utilities have already restored hundreds of thousands of folks starting yesterday. We also have Starlink internet ready to deploy if that is needed. So we're standing by. We want to assist all the local communities with anything that they need. As I mentioned yesterday, we have been approved for federal disaster assistance. Our pre-landfall declaration was approved. Our National State Guard are ready for search, rescue, and humanitarian assistance as needed. State emergency response teams also fully engaged in preparedness and now our response efforts. We have our Florida Highway Patrol that are ready to enter their Alpha Bravo shifts. That's 24-hour, round-the-clock, nonstop shifts. We have 3,000 service members from the Florida National Guard that are on standby, and that includes search and rescue, route clearance, distribution, and protection of critical infrastructure. They have 10 rotary aircraft and over 400 tactical vehicles staged to support relief operations. And we have our Florida State Guard, where we have 100 soldiers, 9 shallow water vessels, 10 UTVs, 2 amphibious rescue vehicles, and 7 search and rescue crews ready to be deployed from Camp Blanding as needed. Florida Fish and Wildlife, as the flooding happens, they have 12 swiftwater rescue teams ready to go. And they are going to be very dynamic in this and move to where the problems are. We've also have on hand for this storm statewide 11 million bottles of water, almost 3 million shelf-stable meals. We do not anticipate needing to put a major dent in that at this time, but we will be ready if those circumstances change. Our Florida Department of Transportation has been clearing roads and shoulders for the last few days. Cut and toss efforts to clear roadways and highways will start as soon as the storm passes. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge and the Howard Franklin Bridge have been temporarily closed due to high winds and will be reopened as quickly as possible once conditions improve. And there are a number of roads that have been flooded and that have been temporarily closed. And so as soon as it's safe, they obviously want to get everything back open. We also have FDOT crews staged to inspect coastal bridges, and we'll be monitoring water levels at low-lying bridges near major river crossings, particularly in the northern part of Florida. As I mentioned yesterday, people with disability or special needs, if you need assistance, you can sign up at snr.flhealthresponse.com. That's Florida Department of Health, snr.flhealthresponse.com. Although we haven't had major power outages compared to some of the past storms, if you are without power and you want to use a generator, please do not use that generator inside your home. Make sure you're operating it 20 feet away from the home. We don't want to see anybody get killed based on the carbon monoxide that will build up when those are run inside people's homes. I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the preparation efforts. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. There's going to be a lot of water that's going to be dumped throughout the state, and we're going to see effects of that not just today but in the ensuing days. But we are prepared. We have the resources that we need, and those will be deployed as needed to help with the recovery and the response efforts. And I'll turn it over now for further details to Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate you being here early this morning and late last night and helping provide the necessary leadership that is needed for such an event like this. As the Governor indicated, I'm going to start kind of where he's left off. Safety, safety, safety. We were starting to enter places like Tallahassee, Jefferson County. It'll very quickly become Taylor County, Dixie County, where we are now cleaning up. So we need to make sure that we prevent those deaths, and I'll talk more about that. But we need to be safe. Please be safe and stay off the roads. If you are sheltering at home, do not leave at this point in time. Just stay where you're at. Conditions are going to continue to deteriorate outside, especially in the north central Florida and northeast Florida. It is unsafe to drive or walk anywhere. We've already experienced 10 to 12 inches of rain in some portions of southwest Florida, to include Sarasota and Manatee County. Many streams and rivers are rapidly rising. If you look at the USGS river gauge summary, you will see that a lot of those are turning black or very, very dark blue. That means that those rivers are responding very quickly. So again, we expect to have several rivers and streams go into major flood stage. So please be careful if you live along those areas. Some of these areas will continue to receive upwards of 15 to 20 inches of rain. All of that will drain into the river basins. This is going to be an event that is going to be probably here for the next 5 to 7 days, maybe as long as 10 days, depending on how much rainfall we get. So we are not running anywhere. We are staying put, and we are going to make sure that we're here to respond. I want to reiterate the hazards from this storm will be seen and felt far outside the center of the cone. Flood impacts are going to be felt everywhere across north central Florida. This storm is massive, with hurricane force winds extending 25 miles from the center and tropical storm force winds extending 140 miles from the center, covering much of the state from the I-4 corridor all the way north to the state line. We've already had more than 35 tornado warnings issued across the state of Florida. Rest assured that stage resources are safe, secure, and ready for deployment to the impacted areas. We have 6 active fuel depots for first responders across North Florida, with over 600,000 gallons of fuel as of this morning. We have 850 debris disaster management sites should we need to do debris operations. We will most likely see additional tornadic activity as the storm makes landfall this morning and moves across North Florida. Please remember that if a tornado warning is issued in your area, you need to get to an interior room, most likely your bathroom in your home, free of windows and doors, and make sure that you stay hunkered down in that area. If you happen to have something you can throw over your body, such as a blanket or maybe even a light mattress, this will certainly help as well. Be prepared for power outages. The governor talked about that. We will have power outages. The nice thing is this is a Cat 1 hurricane. It's not going to be as widespread as we saw in Hurricane Idalia and Hurricane Ian, but nevertheless, we will have those power outages. Please do everything you can to stay safe and comfortable where you're at, because first responders need to be able to reach you and get to other people during the time of storm. Take care of yourself and your family, sheltering in place as long as that needs to happen. Ambulances, search and rescue teams, and other first responders will not be able to get to you during unsafe weather. I know many of you may start calling for 911 services, but until those winds, typically in each county, die below 40 miles an hour, sustained winds, they will not be able to respond. But as soon as they can, they will, and we have plenty of resources staged to come in and assist. After storm related deaths are preventable. And I'll say that again. After storm deaths are preventable. We see the majority of our storm related deaths, especially in low end category hurricanes, happen after landfall. You heard the governor talk about generator safety. Please make sure, again, reiterate, 20 feet away from any open door or window. Make sure that you wait 20 minutes before refilling a generator. Also, in much of our state has senior citizens. Please do not get up on a ladder. Do not try to put a tarp on a roof. Do not try to cut a limb. We have volunteer organizations that will come and help you with that. All you need to do is reach out to your local emergency management agency or call our cell line, and we will make sure somebody comes and helps you on your property. Do not risk yourself. Do not risk injury. We will come and help you. Thanks to the leadership and dedication of the Governor DeSantis, Florida is the leader in emergency management, and we continue to show it through this disaster response. We are the best at what we do. The men and women that are sitting on that floor behind me worked all night long. Most of them came in at 2 or 3 a.m. this morning, and they will be here through the duration of the day and into the night tonight. We want to make sure you get the latest information, and to do so, please continue to follow us on X and Instagram at FLSERT, that's at FLCERT, and on Facebook at FDM for updates. Governor, as always, thank you so much for your leadership and your assistance as we respond to this disaster.
So as the storm continues to head north, even when it's primarily affecting southern Georgia, I mean, all that rain and all the water, when that's there, that eventually comes down into the northern part of Florida. So when you're talking about flooding, you're looking to see the water that's happening in real time as the storm passes you, but then there's going to be after effects from this storm. You're going to continue to see some of these rivers rise. So there's going to be an ongoing threat of flooding that is not going to end simply when the storm passes. So just be aware of that. Be prepared for that. We have a lot of assets in place, and we're going to be there to help people get through it. And I think that we have probably marshaled more assets than we're going to need to be able to respond. But there will likely be many days where people are going to have to look to see what's happening with the water, particularly as we talk about getting into the northern part of the state. So I want to thank everybody who's worked to get to this point. They've started preparing when this thing wasn't even an organized storm, just because we know how these things can happen. And so the preparation's been good, and now we're prepared to respond accordingly. Okay, any questions?
When do you expect you'll be able to get out?
So we think maybe later today. I don't know if we will fly today, but if you look at some of the places in the Big Bend, that's obviously accessible via ground transportation. So we may do that. I know Kevin's also he has staging areas in different parts of the state. He's going to move some of the resources closer to the Sarasota-Bradenton area, just because they've had a really significant amount of water dumped on them, and we're seeing the effects of that. But we will get out as soon as we can.
How's the flood control around the power substations held up so far?
Well, I'll let Kevin, if he wants to say, but if you look at the power outage numbers, this is incredibly modest compared to what we've dealt with in past storms. I mean, Hurricane Ian, you had millions of people that were out. The restoration was the fastest has ever been for a major hurricane, but now we're talking about hundreds of thousands. Obviously, as this storm goes throughout the northern part of Florida, you may see more outages. But what we're seeing is not at the level of Idalia, and certainly not at the level of Ian. Now, whether that's because of the devices that we've put in, or just because the storm is not as powerful as those, maybe it's a combination.
Yeah. I mean, the governor certainly said it best, Cody, and that is, we've got stuff out right now, and it's still being impacted. But as of right now, the substations where we have installed stuff with Florida Power and Light and a couple of other locations, no issues whatsoever on those substations. The places where we have put it out at hospitals, no issues of flood inundation into the hospitals. So these are, again, we learned this over Idalia and Ian. These are best practices, and it proves that the nation, taking Florida's lead and underneath the governor's leadership of building capability and capacity through disasters, we can be good at flood response events. So again, as the governor has said, we haven't had any issues to date.
I just one more reminder: these when the water rises, when you have streets that can be flooded, that's hazardous. And in some respects, you know, that's even more hazardous than some of the other aspects of these storms. So just please take the adequate precautions. Don't try to drive through this. We don't want to see traffic fatalities, you know, adding up because people are out there when the roads aren't safe yet. It'll be fine. All this stuff gets taken care of. All the roads will be open in the not too distant future. These guys are working really hard, but sometimes when there's a lot of water on the roads, it can be very, very hazardous. So please don't tempt fate. Don't try to go and go through these flooded streets. And as that happens, take the proper precautions, and I think that we'll all be better off for that. I know people want to get different places, but sometimes these roads can be very, very hazardous. We do anticipate a lot of water to continue to be dropped with this storm, and this is just something that people are going to have to be very, very aware of. So we'll be back with another update, and we will probably end up somewhere by the end of the day as well.
We just heard there from Governor Ron DeSantis giving an update. This is following Hurricane Debby making landfall. Debby made landfall right at about 7 this morning in Steinhatchee. He mentioned their power outages as expected. We did see power outages here in Florida, about 4,000 or so, but we do know crews are working diligently to restore power. We even heard from Florida Power and Light earlier here on Good Morning Jacksonville saying that they actually have crews out ahead of the storm, set up in different areas, ready to respond, which they're doing so. And he did mention something that I do want to note because we see it happen often. Your generator, if you have a generator and you have to use it, do not use it inside. Make sure it's outside and at least 20 feet away from your property.
And another thing he mentioned is that sometimes the injuries and fatalities from these storms can come from traffic crashes or incidents of people trying to drive through water. So we've already seen some crashes this morning. Thankfully, none of them have been listed as fatalities, but you really want to be cautious, minimize your travel today because hydroplaning is a really big risk. There's a lot of ponding on the road.
You know, I want to bring in meteorologists Lewis Turner and Robert Spett on this one because we heard them mention there this weather event we'll be dealing with for the next 5 to 7 days. You hear that and you wonder,
that's the red flag.
wait a minute, that's not what we were expecting. So exactly what were they trying to say there?
Well, it really is the rainfall that's going to be lingering. Today we have tropical storm warnings. We do not expect a hurricane for 5 to 7 days. But if it does stall out, we could get some of those feeder bands and still got those. And if you get rain day after day after day, it could pile up. And that's when we're talking about that threat of flooding.
And he clarified that. Just if you hear 5 to 10 days, you're like, whoa, but this thing is going to move away. Now, there is a stall out that will happen eventually here off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. But you got to think about the river basins. So as we take a look at our time lapse out over Mayport, looking over the St. Johns River, all that rain on the lens as we get sunrise happening this morning. But think about the Altamaha River, St. Mary's River. He mentioned the rain that's going to be falling, so much of it over Georgia, coming down those river basins into the Suwannee, ultimately Black Creek. We know those are the areas that really flood even after, a week or so after a major rain event, which is what we're experiencing. Story 1A with this hurricane that has now made landfall is the water associated with it. All the rain that's going to be falling, a foot possible up in Glenn County, more even in the Carolinas. They're talking about experiencing something like 20 to 30 inches of rain, which that's off the scales, even when it comes in terms of measurement for history. The center of your storm here, yes, official landfall has happened. Steinhatchee, they caught the center of this. Now let's take a look at the 7 a.m. advisory. We're going to get a bigger advisory in about 10 minutes time, actually. 8 o'clock, we'll get a positional update. And then again at 11 o'clock today, we'll get a fresh cone with all the new computer model runs with it. So current forecast, at least over the next 48 hours. So we get to Tuesday afternoon, and things are pretty confident. You notice how tight the cone is here with the forecast. It's when we get to overnight Tuesday into Wednesday that we expand this picture. Look at it's not a cone anymore. I mean, so here is a cone. This is a hot air balloon. And the reason for this is National Hurricane Center's lack of true confidence right in all the computer model runs. There is a varied resolution from each computer model run, some taking it out to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, some with a really, really long stall and a loop around that you've probably seen on social media that would bring it back into Georgia or even northern Florida. But right now, National Hurricane Center locking in on a turn hard to the north as we get to Wednesday, Thursday. But with that, that means the showers can certainly wrap around and linger into Georgia. We're going to track this. We're going to continue to look. We're going to look at the computer model data here with Robert Speta in just a moment. He's going to go county by county and the impacts that we're going to be seeing throughout our day because we are still in a tornado watch. So tornado warnings certainly could be popping throughout our day as well. Let's look at our roads now. Katie Jeffries is monitoring the UF Health Traffic Center this morning. A lot of wet roads.
That's right, we are. So please try to minimize your driving today as best you can. The hydroplaning risk is high. We are getting quite a few crashes coming in, but all bridges are currently open. So if you do have to get out, all of your bridges are currently open. This is a look towards I-10. Just behind the pole here, there is a crash along I-10 eastbound near Cassett. But when you look at the roadway here, you can see how much water is on the roadway. It's just coming down so fast it can't drain off, and that's why you're getting those hydroplaning conditions. So I-10 westbound near Cassett, look out for a crash in that area, possibly blocking a lane. But if you are traveling along 95 northbound near Emerson, there is a crash over in the right shoulder as well. Now out towards Lake City, Live Oak, there are a lot of reports of debris on the roadway, trees down, and I mean, it's all over, especially Lake City, Live Oak area. Please, please, please do not be out driving in this at the moment.
Thanks for that, Katie. We continue our team coverage right now. We're going to head out to Brunswick. We have Jessica Clark standing by there. She is live in that area. Jessica, we've heard from the emergency management there. They tell us that really their main concern is heavy rainfall there in the Brunswick area. You even showed us some crews already ready. Those business owners were not messing around. They have their sandbags up. They are ready for this storm.
You know what, Keitha? It's not many people who have sandbags up. We've shown you, here, I'll go ahead and show you. This shopkeeper has the sandbags and has them beautifully set out. This is Brown's Antiques in downtown Brunswick. And so, yeah, they do, but it's very spotty here in downtown Brunswick who has the sandbags out and who doesn't. So I want to just show off the beautiful clock tower at the courthouse here. But while we're looking at that, let's go ahead and look at these lovely lights that are strung across Newcastle here, downtown Brunswick. Not moving a whole lot, but every once in a while there is a gust of wind, and boy, those lights just go bow, 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 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then they calm down. I would say for the most part, and we've been out here for a few hours this morning in downtown Brunswick, that things have been fairly quiet. And when we first arrived, it wasn't even raining. And so that was about, I don't know, 5 o'clock, 4:30 or so. And then steadily it started sprinkling and then it started raining. And that's what we're dealing with right now with an occasional gust. But the gust itself isn't even that strong. But going back to your original concern, yes, there will be or could be flooding, very likely right where we are in downtown Brunswick. We'll see what happens. Live.
All right, Jessica Clark, thank you very much. So the city of Jacksonville preparing for possible impacts due to Debby. So Jacksonville Fire Rescue, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and JEA all deployed crews to different parts of the city.
We know restoration is a huge concern, right? When it comes to the storms, you lose power, you want your power back. We recently heard from JEA about their plans to make sure they restore power as quickly as possible. Take a listen.
Right now we've got about 9 outages on the system, a little over 800 customers out.
And how are people and your crews preparing for
Our crews have been technically preparing since late last week. We've been watching the storm closely, and then we've been preparing over the weekend. As you can see, we got all the equipment out here ready to go. We've got plenty of material and equipment personnel ready to respond to any outages that may occur on the system.
Are there any specific areas that you're looking at paying close attention to?
Right now, the Mandarin area, usually down around Mandarin Point, they do take a lot of wind and it gets saturated with all this rain, so we do expect fallen trees in that area.
Whenever you say outages, what are you seeing? Are you seeing an impact on power lines, water?
Normally when I talk about outages, I'm referring to the electric system, and most of that's going to be from down trees or outages caused by winds, limbs falling on trees, things like that.
And I know that it's an all hands on deck type of situation. Could you talk a little bit about the number of crews that are out, that are ready to work just in case anything happens?
Absolutely. We got roughly 30 overhead line crews, or actually 30 crews combined. We've got over 200 line workers ready to respond.
Are you all prepared for anything severe? I know that you all are in constant contact with the city about what exactly they're doing to prepare as well to help you all out.
Right. Absolutely. We're very prepared. We've got enough equipment, personnel, and material to pretty much rebuild any damage that the system would sustain in this kind of event.
And what message do you have to customers who are concerned if they need anything need help or anything, what should they do?
Right. So, no, absolutely. I've got a lot of information for customers. Number one is safety, right? So just please be careful around the crews. Please be mindful. Give them plenty of room to work. If there is an outage, right, they're more likely going to see a down power line or a tree falling on a power line. Please don't approach it. Call 665-6000 and report that condition. We will respond.
Any advice that you have for customers as well? I know that you already talked about staying a close distance or good enough distance from crews. But any other advice for people if they do have an outage, what they should do? I know you gave that number, but some people sometimes want to fix it themselves or try to figure out what to do without trying to call you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not try to fix it yourself, right? Safety's paramount. And please be patient. Report the outage. We will respond. We will get to you.
Now, JEA has done a lot of preventative measures since June 1st. How is that actually coming into play for a storm like Hurricane Debby today?
That's an excellent question. So we do have a very robust tree trimming cycle and a very robust pole replacement program. So what we do is we inspect our poles every 8 years. Anything that's damaged or cracked or may look like a risk is replaced. And then same with the tree trimming. They trim our circuits every 2.5 years. So our vegetation management program is very, very good. Well, the point of that is to try to keep any vegetation near the lines clear in case a storm like this were to happen. There would be less risk of a limb falling on the power line.
Right, and last question for me, what are your crews are going to look like once the storm is over? What does the cleanup process look for everyone?
Right, so we'll still have all hands on deck, usually for a good 24-hour period post-storm. We'll go to all the areas where we're at, clean up any material that was left on site, and then take care of any small remaining outages or customer connections.
I know an area that tends to see a lot of flooding and some issues is San Marco. Is that an area that you all are also focusing on as well? I know you mentioned Mandarin.
Right. We do focus on San Marco. They do sustain a lot of flooding. I don't think we're anticipating a tremendous amount of flooding in that area right now, but if it were to happen, we'll be ready to respond.
So there you've been hearing from JEA saying they are ready to respond. Specifically, they are watching the Mandarin Point area, saying they've been getting quite a few outages there.
You're watching Good Morning Jacksonville as we continue to track Hurricane Debby. Made landfall just about 7 o'clock this morning in Steinhatchee here in Florida. We know the winds right now are about 75 miles per hour in Lake City. We're going to take you out there live just ahead. You're watching GMJ.
All right, so how much time do we have to make graphics? Or I guess tell me what's the plan for the next block? I'm running back and forth.
Live from First Coast News on your side. This is Good Morning Jacksonville.
And welcome back as we continue our coverage of Hurricane Debby here at 8 o'clock here on Good Morning Jacksonville. It is a weather impact alert day on our First Coast and Southeast Georgia as Hurricane Debby just made landfall along the Big Bend area of the Gulf Coast right at about 7 this morning. We are on your side tracking Debby live with your most accurate forecast.
And right now, parts of the First Coast are seeing the impacts of Hurricane Debby. You're probably seeing the rain come down. You're definitely feeling the winds out there if you're out towards Lake City, Live Oak area. We are tracking any active watches or warnings that come into our area.
And here's a live look at Jacksonville Beach. Wow, you can see the wind is really whipping out there. Rain coming down as well. Debby shaking up back to school plans as expected. We're on your side with a breakdown of closures expected across the First Coast this morning.
Good morning to you. I'm Katie Jeffries.
Welcome in. Off to a busy start. Clearly, I'm Keitha Nelson. We appreciate you guys waking up with us. So this morning, we're on your side tracking Debby. Overnight, the storm strengthened into a Category 1 hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico.
So here are the 3 things you should know about Hurricane Debby and how it's impacting Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia right now. So at this time, the storm has made landfall. It made landfall around 7 o'clock this morning, and the state of Florida is under a state of emergency due to the storm. And there's a number of closures across the First Coast and Southeast Georgia. They're scrolling there at the bottom of your screen.
Now this morning, we're on your side with team coverage from Lake City to San Marco and up to Brunswick. And we have a team of meteorologists here as well. We have meteorologist Robert Spetta as well as Lewis Turner standing by. Hey. Look, we've been talking about this for more than a week now. It is finally here. Hopefully everyone is prepared.
Let me get my serious. I'm going to take the glasses off and be real.
Okay.
Don't drive right now. I listen, like, right, and Katie's seeing it. She's tracking. We've got such heavy rain. The interstates right now, it's just not going to be safe. And I know, easy for me to say, if you have to be at work, I'm just saying call somebody and say it's just not safe to be on the roads right now. The flooding rain, you get caught in one of these deluges and it becomes a problem quick. So here are your very latest numbers. We just got the 8 o'clock advisory. We're going to be getting hourly advisories now from the Hurricane Center. So this 8 o'clock advisory, still a hurricane. We're kind of wondering now that official landfall has happened if they would have downgraded it. They have not. 75-mile-an-hour winds. Of course, for a hurricane, you need 74-mile-an-hour winds. So we're really just hanging on by a thread with this Category 1 storm making landfall at Steinhatchee a little bit earlier this morning. Confidence pretty tight over the next 36 hours, and then confidence really waning with just how widespread the computer model resolutions are with this storm. National Hurricane Center holding on to a pretty strong northerly turn with this system, and I believe by the 9 o'clock update, now that the eye will fully be on shore, we'll probably have this downgraded to a tropical storm. We will, of course, watch very, very carefully. What this all means is we have to watch these bands. We are in a tornado watch through the rest of our afternoon. Each one of these bands coming on shore has the potential of creating a spin up. If we get a little bit warmer through our day, a little bit more instability in the atmosphere, we don't expect full sunshine, obviously, so not a great deal of heat, but just a little bit of heating, and that could be a triggering mechanism to get a couple tornado warnings going, which of course we'll track very, very carefully. Want to zoom in, where you see the yellow is where we have the tornado watch in place. Looking at Lake City, you saw we had team coverage here. We got Drew and Tristan in place in Lake City. They, in the next 30 to 45 minutes, one of the main bands, in fact, just what would be the outer band of that main eye wall, will be making it across I-75 there into Lake City. Timing-wise, you can see 8:48 Lake City, 8:59 Live Oak. We've got Jasper, Lake Butler even. So I got some good friends here in Lake Butler. I need you to take cover, take care as this really, really strong band comes your way. Talking about very gusty winds, probably in that 50-mile-an-hour range that could cause some damage. Zooming over, I want to look out, of course, here going through downtown Jacksonville, getting inside that beltway out towards the airport. A pretty heavy band now making its way north of the St. Mary's River into what will be Fernandina and then St. Mary's in the next 45 minutes to an hour as well. A big picture with the winds. I'm looking at Lake City at 21 sustained. This is about to change here in the next 45 minutes or so, as we just showed you in the timing. But everywhere, we're getting those steady winds coming in and off the beach. Showing you the computer model forecast. Just going to kind of time this out for you. Robert Spetta, is on standby. He's going to show you county by county breakdown here in just a minute. He's going to give you our big impacts. And as far as timing goes with this, it's really about whether or not this thing stalls out and when it stalls out off the coast of Georgia or South Carolina. Notice we get through this evening. Look at this slowdown over Lake City. This in particular computer model is showing. This holds true. We're talking about getting close to a foot or more of rain and very, very damaging winds over Lake City. Going through Tuesday and into Wednesday now. Well, this will be early Tuesday morning. A lot of this centered up. We'll get over Brunswick. That's why we're talking about 12 inches possible, even more for Glenn County with some flooding potential there. The good thing, if you can take the good thing out of this, Tuesday night with the position of the low in the center, a lot of the winds would be coming back onshore into Brunswick. So any flooding that would have happened with a tide being tonight around 10:50 there along the marshes of Brunswick and along the coast of St. Simons and Jekyll, this position of the low would actually help flush out some of those marshes. So at least you'd have that, although you still look like by Tuesday night in a heavy rainfall. So you're just getting to the beginning of this in Glenn County. We're going to take a look at your 7-day forecast, your weather impacts through the next couple of days with Robert here in just a few moments as we continue our team coverage. Let's look at the roads with Katie Jeffries. I'm telling you, as the advice was at the beginning, best if you can avoid it, just stay home.
That's right, because take a look at this. This is the Buckman Bridge, and you can see, I mean, it's almost blinding conditions at this point. The camera's shaking, and that's from all the wind. So if you are out driving, you've got some pretty nasty conditions to try and drive through. You've got a lot of ponding on the roadway from that heavy rain, and that is what is represented by this blue on the map, and it's all over our area. And when you have that ponding, that really leads to hydroplaning, which is part of why we are seeing so many crashes, people spinning out, people running into each other. So please try to minimize your travel today. Well, there's a report of a crash I-10 westbound near Cassett, so please use caution. A lot of construction on I-10 as well, so sometimes with those lane changes, that can be an issue for drivers. Another crash just came in, 295 northbound at JTB. No reports of any lanes blocked with this, but even if it's off to the side, you still want to be cautious because people are sliding. They could slide into that crash that's over on the side. Now, Lou mentioned Lake Butler not long ago. There's a report of a tree down along 121, just kind of south of Lake Butler, and we are seeing some delays there as well, so please be cautious. Out towards Lake City, Live Oak, there are so many reports of trees down, debris on the roadway that it's hard to keep up, but there is a report very close to the Columbia-Baker line of possibly a tree down on the eastbound side of I-10. I'm not seeing significant delays, so I'm thinking it's probably small, maybe off to the side, but something to be aware of. This crash we've been following since early this morning. It looks like maybe a truck went off the side of the roadway, I-10 eastbound, just outside of Lake City. It's in the shoulder, but again, please try to minimize your travel. Don't go out unless you really have to, because the roadway conditions are just really messy and downright dangerous.
Let's continue our team coverage right now with things in Lake City. We're going to take a look at things there. That's an area set to experience tropical storm strength winds today. I just spoke with meteorologist Robert Speta, who says they're seeing wind gusts of up to 60 miles an hour. We have Drew Cosby standing by live again in Lake City this morning. Well, this is Tristan Hardy at this hour. Tristan, we see the rain is really coming down there.
Absolutely, Keith. It's raining sideways over here, and within the last hour, we've experienced the wind just pick up. I mean, just holding my hand out here, I can feel how the rain is pelting my hand. It slightly stings a little bit. The wind is getting heavy. Drew is having a little difficulty holding the camera right now. I want to show you just how powerful these winds are. We were passing through the historical area of downtown of Lake City. I want you to see this courtyard and see how all of these chairs, the tables, knocked over because of the wind over here. Now, as you've heard Governor DeSantis say that there is thousands of linemen out here in the state of Florida working around the clock to make sure that we still have power. I've heard down trees and some accidents. We've experienced that here in Lake City. We've experienced a number of down trees and debris on the road. There's been a little difficulty driving a little bit. If you don't have to be out here, then don't drive out here. There are thousands of linemen here, hundreds, excuse me, of linemen here in Lake City who are in certain areas in Columbia County waiting to strategically respond to any type of emergency going on. Take a listen.
but it drives me crazy.
Okay.
Here's another look of all the wind that's blowing around here in this courtyard in downtown Lake City. Again, it's raining a little bit heavier. The wind is getting stronger. And then not only that, it just feels like the rain is just pelting your skin a little bit. It slightly stings a little bit. So if you don't have to be out here, don't drive out here. We're already seeing some water rise in some of the areas of downtown Lake City. We're going to drive around around Lake City and just check everything out. We'll keep you posted on everything happening here on First Coast News. We're live in Lake City. I'm Tristan Hardy, First Coast News, on your side.
Surprised to see all of that patio furniture still left out there, knowing that the storm was coming.
That's right. Especially, I mean, it's one of the things that we do talk about a lot before storms come ashore is that you need to secure your belongings, or else it could end up like that. And in a worse storm, those could become projectiles. Yeah. So hopefully things will be secured. Now, for those living in Jacksonville, you know there are certain areas that really tend to flood. Yep. Riverside, certain areas of downtown, and especially out towards San Marco. And we know they've even brought in pumps in some areas.
Definitely so. We see the ponding there behind Claire Alfrey, who joins us now live in that neighborhood there. Claire, specifically, where are you at this hour?
Keith and Katie, good morning. We are here in San Marco, specifically off the intersection of San Marco Boulevard and LaSalle Street. And look, you can't even tell the difference between what is the road and what is the sidewalk because it is entirely covered in water. Now, this is an area that has a history of being flooded, yes. In fact, we saw city workers starting to come out to look at the area of all the excessive water that drivers are experiencing here in San Marco at around 6 a.m. However, there are people that are potentially hydroplaning with high waters like this, not only in San Marco, but in areas like Riverside and even on the interstate like Lou and Katie mentioned. Definitely driving is not the priority today, to stay off the roads, as you can just see how much water these cars are pushing off. Now, in terms of just having crews out here, we have city workers, JEA, even JFRD. They are currently at both locations on both sides of the St. Johns River, as they know that areas like this tend to be flooded. And in fact, Chief Powers of JFRD does have a plan for keeping crews on standby as we continue to see the impacts of Hurricane Debby.
We have 2 swiftwater rescue teams that will be staged strategically on each side of the river in case we have flooding, that they can go into those areas and make those rescues.
Now again, if you do not have to drive, specifically in neighborhoods like San Marco and Riverside, my best piece of advice is to avoid driving on streets to avoid flooding. We've seen people having to put their hazards on and even having to pull over just in this parking lot just to assess how they are going to move forward on their commute. Now reporting in San Marco, Claire Alfrey, First Coast News, on your side.
All right, Claire, be careful out there. So the city of Jacksonville is also opening 3 emergency shelters. City leaders made the decision to open them due to the risk of flooding and high winds. So here's where they are. So you have a general population shelter that is at La Villa School of the Arts. People who need special assistance, maybe you have medical needs or you have pets, you need to go to Landmark Middle or the Legend Center, and make sure you bring a kennel for your pet if you're going to one of those.
Now, early voting was supposed to start today in Duval County for Florida's primary election, but it was pushed back. This is due to the storm. Now early voting is set to start on Wednesday. That's August 7th.
And in anticipation of Hurricane Debby, the Jags closed today's practice to fans. Now they say they are still going to practice as scheduled. There are only 3 open camp dates remaining, August 7th, 8th, and 12th. Now you can register for those practices at jaguars.com.
We have an update on school closures in southeast Georgia this morning. Students in Charlton and Pierce counties were set to begin their school year today, but due to the storm and the impacts of Debby, both school districts have announced that they will be closed today and Tuesday. So the first day back for students is now set for Wednesday. The districts say that they will provide any updates if necessary. We'll bring it to you right here on First Coast News.
And I know some of you have questions about trash collection. So we are on your side with the trash pickup schedules for the First Coast. If you live in Duval County today, you can plan for normal trash pickup. Public Works officials say they are monitoring the storm to see if Tuesday's pickup should be moved to Wednesday. In Clay and Alachua counties today, all trash and recycling pickups as well as new garbage can deliveries will be suspended. And as of now, services are set to resume on Tuesday, depending on storm damage.
We know there's a lot of information that we're giving you right now, but we have an article on our website, firstcoastnews.com, with all of the storm cancellations. That information is also available on the First Coast News app, and we can also send it to you directly to your phone. All you have to do is text the word closures to that number on your screen. It's 904-633-2402, and make sure to bookmark that page because, of course, this is all a fluid situation. We're going to be updating it with more closures across our area as soon as they are announced.
Well, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has issued a state of emergency ahead of Debby. The storm expected to really impact south central Georgia, southeast coastal Georgia. Now, Governor Ron DeSantis had also issued a state of emergency in Florida.
Well, we know Florida Power and Light is ready to respond. Why FPL says getting crews ready ahead of the storm is so important.
All right, so we're continuing to track this, and I want to show you the radar right now because this is kind of important. We're talking about these tropical storm strength winds. Let's zoom right in just around Mayo, Live Oak area, and I'm going to plot this out for you because this is what is left of the eye walls. This came on shore, and I think just entering Live Oak at this moment and in the next few minutes in Lake City, we are going to be seeing those sustained tropical storm strength winds. And if we were going to be looking at gusts that could be knocking down tree limbs or power outages or anything like that, it is going to be within this band right here, which would be that eye wall after it came on shore. So entering Lake City, give it within the hour, I think you're going to be seeing those max winds here. Places like Live Oak just starting to enter into your area right now as well. I mean, this was the latest reports on these winds, 48 miles per hour in Valdosta. Lake City, they had gusts at 39, but that was about 20 minutes ago, and I think it's going to be going rapidly downhill over the course of the next few minutes, as I mentioned. Also got those southerly winds coming in on the out across parts of Duval County. NES Jacks, winds coming right up the river and likely hitting the anemometer there at NES Jacks. I've worked there, I know exactly where that is. They have 47-mile-per-hour winds at this time as well. So estimated in the center at 75 miles per hour. Right front quadrant, and yeah, I'm not probably going to see sustained in Lake City at 75, but you are going to be looking at those winds gusting up there enough to be knocking down trees. So if you plan on jumping in the car in the next few minutes out there, or you want to go outside for a walk, it is not the time to be doing that. This is one of those storms where we are saying, you know, stay inside if you can, just be smart about it. We should have no injuries on the First Coast with this one. As long as you are smart, you are not out driving in the worst of the weather or getting out and putting yourself in harm's way. So hopefully everybody is being smart. If you're watching here right now, you're taking the proper precautions. You're staying informed here. And of course, we're going to stay with you throughout the rest of this morning.
Yeah. We can't say it enough, folks. Be safe out there on the roadways. When it comes to closures, we're getting a lot into our newsroom at this hour. We're going to, of course, keep you updated on it all throughout the morning right here on Good Morning Jacksonville.
You know, finding levity in this, I keep getting emails from all the golf courses I play at that they're going to be closed today. I'm like, yeah, no kidding, right? It's unbelievable all the rain that we are seeing as predicted, but I'm telling you, historic levels up near Brunswick and up that I-95 corridor toward
Mornings change. On your side means having someone to talk to.
Letting us take care of your morning.
Earning your trust. We want to help your family save that extra dollar. To get you to work with a little less stress. And to help keep you safe. Because no matter what happens,
we will always be here.
To say, good morning, Jacksonville.
First Coast News, on your side. You're watching the First Coast News Weather Channel on WJXX Digital Channel 25.2. Powered by the First Coast's most accurate weather team. First Coast News, on your side.
comes to forecasting the weather, experience matters.
An entire decade. 10 fingers.
7 years.
15 years.
I've done this 25 years.
My first job was in 2005, right here at Mayport Naval Station.
40 years, and I'm still learning.
And earning your trust is just as important.
So at home, on the go, wherever you need us.
We know you expect the best, and you deserve it.
You're the reason we do what we do, you and your family.
As meteorologists, it's part of our job to be ready.
We're here to tell you what's really happening.
And give you science, not speculation.
Hey, we know when dangerous weather is coming, you have important decisions to make.
You want to keep your family safe.
Every choice matters.
Life can catch you off guard. Your forecast doesn't have to.
The First Coast's most accurate weather team. First Coast News, on your side. Accuracy matters. The First Coast News weather team delivers the most accurate forecast, period. Certified by WeatherRate. First Coast News, on your side. News, weather, sports, and traffic. Download the First Coast News app today.
First thing I want to do in the morning, I want to smile, so I want to hear about Keitha's kids. I want to hear what Katie's baby's up to and Lauren's new family. I want to know those things.
Good morning, Jacksonville. Within that is a family. We are together before the sun even comes out.
I love that I know when I walk into the station, I'm gonna see Keitha and Lou and Lauren and even the people behind the scenes.
Having this home that is Good Morning Jacksonville, I love coming into work every day.
Spending time with Katie and Keith and Lauren, they're all such wonderfully upbeat, cool people.
There's a camaraderie there that you can't just make up.
I'm blessed to be a part of it. Like, you don't find that in every workplace or at every news station.
Katie and Keitha and I, we all have that mom camaraderie.
Truth be told, Keitha and I have worked together longer than anybody. So I think she knows the right times to call me on my stuff.
There's no better way to start your day. Good Morning Jacksonville. First Coast News, on your side. Join the conversation happening right now. Like First Coast News on Facebook.
You are our eyes and ears on the streets. When you see breaking news happening near you, share your photos and videos using the First Coast News app. Find the Near Me tab, then click Share with Us, upload, and submit. Your photo or video may appear on First Coast News on air or online. First Coast News, on your side.
Sunday night, sports final nights, we've got the local sports scene on lock. Jaguars, Gators, Noles, Canes, Dogs, high school sports, and your hashtag team sideline photo. So join the First Coast Sports team Sunday nights at 11:30.
Sports Final, sponsored by Farah and Farah. Go inside the story. Follow First Coast News on Twitter, on your side.
There are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and the San Marco train will make you late.
From your street to Main Street, when it comes to traffic, I've got your back.
95 is the name of the road, not the speed limit. I will pull this car over.
With traffic every 10 minutes, don't say I didn't warn you.
People out here are driving like it's Mario Kart because there are plenty of people I would like to red shell.
Traffic with Katie Jeffries and the UF Health Traffic Center. Weekdays only on Good Morning Jacksonville.
Wild rainfall totals with a stall out that could potentially happen.
And hopefully, as we go ahead through today, that confidence does increase. But for now, just due to that lack of steering flow, it does decrease the confidence in that extended forecast. So just want to continue to watch for those changes too.
All right, so let's go over to the big wall if possible. I'm going to switch things over. I want to take a look at sort of the weather impacts, the when, the impact, and the need, what you need to do. And the when is, of course, now. And so the question is not when it starts, because we've had landfall. It's when is it going to end for me, right? So when is it going to end for you, right? So Tuesday, late night Tuesday for a majority of us. But we have a very close eye on southeast Georgia for that wraparound rain that would happen on the south end of this system that would potentially be stalling offshore that could go into Wednesday morning as well. The impacts, we're experiencing the heavy rain right now. The isolated tornado, there have been tornado warnings well south of us and along the coast, the west coast. We could see that today if we get a little bit more warmth going to get a little bit extra instability, though there's plenty of it already in place. So let's keep an eye out for if we get a tornado warning out there. Let's prep for the flooding. Let's have our devices charged right, in case we get those power outages, which we had been talking about. So that way you can stay with us if you do have to hit the road. We don't want you to, but if you do have to get away from the TV set, have those apps handy. That cone we had been showing you, so wide on the back end of it because of the uncertainty. The spaghetti models Robert showed that they're really all over the place. The National Hurricane Center kind of coming down on the middle of this thing, making it that hard north turn. I want to show you a couple pictures outside. Lake City is where we anticipate getting some really strong winds here in the next 20 to 30 minutes or so, at least within the hour, and we're already seeing all that rainfall. A peek at downtown Jacksonville before we go after this short timeout. Look at all the rain, blinding out there, so avoid the roadways.
Live from First Coast News on your side, this is Good Morning Jacksonville.
Well, good morning. Thank you for staying with us. We are tracking Debby. Hurricane Debby made landfall earlier this morning around 7 o'clock near the Big Bend. Already feeling impacts in our area as well. We've got some heavy rain, very strong wind out there, especially out towards the Lake City, Live Oak area.
And folks, here's a live look for you. This is a look at the damage that we are seeing in certain parts of our area. Again, the storm is not giving anyone any mercy. You can see here as we track Debby right now making its way across the state of Florida, just into the First Coast newsroom. This is video of the impacts of Hurricane Debby as the storm just made landfall in Taylor County, Florida, right in the Big Bend area. As mentioned, this is video taken on an FDOT camera. As you can see, the wind is really whipping out there, power lines as well. And we can even see the actual the lights there whipping in the wind. And here's another live look for you in another part of our area. This is out in St. Augustine, right near the Bridge of Lions. You can see wind and rain as cars pass through that area there.
Yeah, you can really see the flags going there in the wind. So all morning long, we have team coverage as we follow Hurricane Debby and the impacts that we could see here on the First Coast.
Well, welcome in. Clearly off to a very busy start on this Monday morning. I'm Keitha Nelson.
I'm Katie Jeffries. We are so glad you're here with us. We have meteorologist Robert Spetta and meteorologist Lewis Turner here to kind of walk us through the morning. And we are really starting to see it pick up, especially out towards Lake City, Live Oak, Brunswick. It's starting to build, and here in Jacksonville as well.
I think Robert and I were just talking, and you were saying you were thankful. We haven't seen the widespread tornado warnings yet.
Knock on wood, we have not. We saw a couple little rotations on radar, but nothing enough to indicate a tornado on the ground.
We do want to clarify something. I want you guys to clarify this
Yes.
for me because we mentioned hurricane. This is a Category 1 storm right right now at about 75 miles per hour, sustained
Yes.
winds. At 74, it goes down.
73. So 74 would be the threshold for a hurricane.
Right.
We get below that, and then we'll go to tropical storm.
So we're right there.
Right there
Right on the edge.
And we're going to get an update in about 30 minutes.
Okay.
They're doing a Hurricane Center is doing hourly strength and location updates. So right now the 8 a.m. advisory is the latest, and Keith is exactly right. Still at that 75 that we've got to watch for. The movement of this storm northeast, still they're saying at 10 miles an hour with a steady pressure. The pressure will start to fill in a little bit now that we have moved over land, meaning it'll climb, meaning it'll weaken. So maybe in the next half hour, or at least by 10 o'clock, this should be downgraded to the tropical storm. I don't think that truly changes impacts. Obviously, if we've got the longer it stays as a hurricane, the more Lake City is going to feel the brunt of it. But by the time the center reaches that Lake City area here in the next 30 minutes or so, the winds should have died down a bit, I should say. All right, so where you see the yellow, we had mentioned we have not had any tornado warnings yet. That is a great thing. There is so much more to this storm that's down near the I-4 corridor, though, I should say, where they have seen the spin-ups. And as that tail makes its way towards us, we could have a little bit better chance through the heater of the afternoon. So looking at the center, I mentioned Lake City. It is fully on shore now and beginning to fill in. So not that well-defined, clear eye as far as rain is concerned. So the eye is beginning to fill in. Dowling Park is under some really gusty conditions right now. Branford and Lake City. So the next 25 to 30 minutes or so, some really strong gusty winds coming towards you. Now let's look at our first coast here, getting into Jacksonville. We've got heavy rain from really extending through western Nassau County, so west of I-95 in Nassau County from Folkston, so Callahan, Hilliard into the airport area, west side of Jax, really, really heavy rain. But what we're not seeing any rotation in any of this right now. So just that blinding rain and the gusty winds for you there. That'll extend into Fernandina. As far as sustained winds right now, Lake City, we're going to get some good strong gusts here very, very shortly for you. So just a heads up. I want to show you Futurecast because speed is everything with this. I mean, this is Monday afternoon and it still shows. I think this is a little slow. I believe we're going to get a little bit faster forward momentum with this particular computer model. So I think by tonight, this center will be a little bit further north of Lake City and we'll be thinking about more chance for getting some rotation here in Jacksonville. So we'll watch carefully through the evening hours with this as well. This isn't just a morning event. This is an all-day Monday event into Tuesday as well. So we got to kind of settle in as we continue to track what is left of Hurricane Debby. Still a hurricane out there. We'll have more specifics county by county in just a moment. Let's get on the roads now with Katie Jeffries and the UF Health Traffic Center.
Well, my hope is that people will stay home, stay off the roads. This is a look towards I-95 near Emerson. And when you take a look here, you can see how heavy the rain is. And sometimes when it's coming down, it can be almost blinding rain. But just how much of it is just on the roadway. It's coming down so fast, it can't kind of run off. And that's how you get the ponding in the area. So that's what the blue represents. Blue represents where we're seeing ponding. And you can definitely see it throughout the area here at the moment. Now, as you are making your way around Jacksonville, if you do have to head out, please try to minimize your travel. We did get a report of a crash at 295 southbound, the ramp there from US 17. Hearing it's a multi-vehicle crash and possible a lane there is blocked, so keep that in mind as well. Also a crash at 295 northbound in JTB, use caution there. And if you are going to be out traveling maybe around the Brunswick area, the Sidney Lanier is open and the causeway is open. But those are two things that we are watching very closely from the rain and the wind standpoint. But for right now, both the Sidney Lanier and the causeway are open, and your Jacksonville bridges are all open as well.
And the city of Jacksonville is getting ready for the impacts left behind by Debby. Jacksonville Fire and Rescue, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and JEA deployed crews to different parts of the city so they can respond to any emergencies as Debby begins its track across the state of Florida.
We're doing previously when a USAR team would go to the Swanee Valley area like it did last year, we would have to wait on National Guard heavy equipment to get in and knock those roads open, where if we send the ERAT team with our USAR team, they can go in and bust those roads open. Well, when other USAR teams within the state started seeing that, they said this is a best practice.
Now here's information on shelters within Jacksonville. They're now open for anyone that needs a place to ride out the storm. The Legend Center is open for general population and those with special needs. Now Landmark Middle is open for the general population, those with special medical needs, and it is pet friendly. La Villa School of the Arts is open for the general population. We also have a look at some school closures across the First Coast. So Glenn County Schools announced it is pushing back the first day of school by just one day. This is due to the storm. The school will start on Wednesday, that's August 7th. All Duval County public schools and offices will be closed today, and all on-campus events and athletic practices will also be canceled. All schools will be closed today in Columbia County. All Nassau County schools and offices will also be closed throughout the day.
And there's some more school closures as well. You've got Charlton County that's going to be closed today and Tuesday, and the first day of school is now Wednesday. Same story here for Pierce County. They're going to be closed today and Tuesday and have their first day of school on Wednesday as well.
Now we know early voting was supposed to start today in Duval County for Florida's primary election, but it was pushed back due to the storm. Now early voting is set to start on Wednesday, that is August 7th.
And in anticipation of Hurricane Debby, the Jags have closed today's practice to fans. They still plan on practicing, but it's closed to fans. Now they only have 3 open camp dates remaining, August 7th, 8th, and 12th. You can register for those practices at jaguars.com. Right now we do have an article up with all the storm cancellations and closures that we are aware of on firstcoastnews.com and the First Coast News app. Now we can send that to your phone. Text the word closures to 904-633-2402 and make sure you bookmark that page because we will be updating it as we get in more closures. And right now, flights at the Jacksonville International Airport are being impacted. The number keeps increasing. Right now, FlightAware says there's 43 canceled flights out of Jacksonville, 13 delays. Now, in a post on social media, the airport says it will remain open as long as the airlines continue to operate. And you are urged to check your flight status before traveling. And something else that we have also just seen along I-95 southbound at the airport, lanes there are blocked, so you may not even be able to get to the airport exit at this point. Right now, we are learning about power outages in our area as well, learning that over 40,000 customers and businesses are without power across the First Coast. According to JEA's power outage map, right now, nearly 8,500 customers are without power.
And we're going to continue our team coverage this morning as Debby continues to move closer here to Florida. We know it is now here. It made its landfall in Steinhatchee right at about 7 o'clock this morning. We have Claire Alfrey standing by live in San Marco for us this morning. San Marco, an area that we know floods very easily even when there's heavy rain. Now hurricane, a category.
Katie and Keitha, good morning. We are here in San Marco, right here along LaSalle Street and the San Marco Boulevard. And right now the water has overtaken both lanes of San Marco Boulevard. We can see right here a car. This is a typical pattern that we've seen with traffic all morning, where cars are unsure of what to do. They pull over, they try to reassess the situation, and again, would not recommend to be driving in conditions like this. The water has taken over all of San Marco Boulevard, even LaSalle Street. Like, you can't even tell the difference between the sidewalk and the actual road just from the impact. And as you can see, there is a lot of water being splashed back and forth, which is making it very difficult for drivers, even unsure of which lane to be in. This is a concern that JEA is definitely working on. As Katie and Keitha both mentioned, that right now currently 8,500 customers are currently out of power. We just spoke with JEA and we asked them specifically about their conditions in San Marco. Now they are saying that as of right now, they have seen worse, but they are continuing to keep crews in this area, specifically of San Marco, for outages. And this is what JEA has to say about their concerns for the rest of Duval County.
We're concerned about soggy ground and the potential of tornadoes, so trees. We have 27 tree crews ready to go in case we need them as well.
So right now, of course, with the excessive rainfall, we are looking in areas along the St. Johns River, like Riverside and San Marcos. So to be cautious if you do have to drive. Otherwise, I would not recommend driving in conditions like this, as so many people are waiting in the parking lot, just figuring out what to do, how to get back home or how to get to work. Reporting in San Marco, Claire Alfrey, First Coast News on your side.
Thanks for that clearer time. Right now is 8:41 on this Monday morning. Let's take a look at how Hurricane Debby is impacting the state of Florida this morning.
So we do have some video out of Tampa as Hurricane Debby made its way towards Florida. You can see waves crashing into the seawall, the rain coming down. And right now, Tampa police have announced more than 8 streets are flooded, and they are expecting more flooding throughout the morning.
And moving down south to Fort Myers, Florida, this is where streets are flooded, as you can see in this video here. So you can see a minivan driving through the flooded waters. We can't say it enough. Do not drive through flooded streets. You don't know how deep the water actually is or what is in the water. In some neighborhoods, flooded waters started to reach people's actually up to their front doors. You can see in this video here.
And moving up the east coast here of Florida into the Cedar Key area, there was heavy rain, strong winds, and you can see it hitting the small fishing town. This is some video from just last night, yesterday. You can see the video or the waves crashing into the seawall. And you remember last year, Cedar Key was actually hit by Hurricane Idalia. And so some people had just kind of rebuilt from that, and now they're having to deal with Hurricane Debby.
Here we go. All right, we want to head to Lake City this morning. This is where they can expect to see tropical storm strength winds. We continue our team coverage with a look at things in that area, an area that is taking the brunt of this storm. We have Tristan Hardy standing by for us now live.
Hey, good afternoon, Keitha. Good morning, Keitha. So right now we are on I-10 East near mile marker 306, where there was an object on the road and crews had to rush to come over here and make sure the roads are clear. We have a state trooper and a road ranger still on scene. As soon as we leave, they're going to leave as well. And then I want you to check out what they had to get off the road. This right here, this huge this huge piece of debris, this tree that fell over, it was all on this left lane over here, and they've been out there since we got the report at 8:13 a.m. So they've been out here trying to fix that, make sure that's taken care of. Now, as we were driving to I-10 East, the wind was a little bit tough on us. As I was driving, the steering wheel was tugging on me a little bit. Now the rain is picking up a little bit more, but as of now, we're still safe. Everything is A-okay. There are moments when we just experience the strong winds that's pushing us, but as of now, all is fine. They just cleared up this road right here, so if you're driving on I-10 East near mile marker 306, then you are good to drive in the left or in the right lane. But if you don't have to drive, then don't do it. The roads can be a little bit slick. Be careful because you don't want to hydroplane or get into any type of accident. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio. I'm Tristan Hardy, First Coast News, on your side.
Well, thank you very much there, Tristan. You know what? We're continuing to track this, so it is still technically a hurricane, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is downgraded here pretty soon. But that doesn't mean it is going to be weak. We still have some pretty decent impacts with this. Tristan was just mentioning it was a rough drive. We actually have the kind of the inner core of the storm passing right near Lake City at this time, just around Doling Park over towards Live Oak. And I think within that's where you're going to be seeing these tropical storm strength sustained winds. So still got kind of the worst of it passing by there before things start to clear out on the back side of it. Right now, though, the biggest impact continues to be that threat of heavy rainfall persistent over the next few days. We still have that damaging wind threat, but even that chance of some tornadoes. Thankfully, we haven't had that quite yet this morning, but we did have several reports yesterday, and we also had tornado warnings towards our south, and all of that still is headed in our direction. So let's still break this down county by county for you so you know what's going to be happening in your area. Now, if you're in St. John's over towards Flagler County, still could be looking at these winds about 15 to 30, gust up near about 40 miles per hour. Still got that potential for tornadic activity along the coast as these bands feed around and come on shore. And that's the same thing for Glenn, Camden, and Nassau County. We're monitoring a few storms just offshore there for you. But for you, as the storm drifts towards the north, this is still going to be not over this morning, through tonight and into tomorrow as the storm kind of stalls out in your neighborhood. And also you're going to have those onshore winds. So for coastal areas, you are under a storm surge watch with that high tide, especially heading into tonight about 10 to 11 o'clock. There is a potential for some water level rise up to about 2 to 4 feet above normal levels there. And then Ware, Charlton, Brantley, and Pierce, 10 to 20 inches of rain potentially in some of your areas as well.
Thank you very much, Robert. So we'll keep you updated throughout, Debbie, on the First Coast News app. You can find the latest weather updates as well as important reminders on how to stay prepared. But first, let's take a look at some of what Hurricane Debby has done in the San Marco area. This is some video, looks like from near LaSalle Street. Now you can see streets there, sidewalks flooded as well. Our Claire Alfrey is in that area, and she's saying some drivers are pulling over, trying to assess if they can even make it through some of those flooded roadways.
We know what happens in that area anytime there's a regular storm, much less a hurricane. It gets pretty bad out there. We want to take you now live to, this is Brunswick, Georgia. This is not live, this is some video for you. Not too much happening in the area right now other than light rain, and you can see crews are on standby ready to respond.
Your time right now is 8:47, so we've got some of your top headlines happening today on the First Coast. We know that Georgia Governor Brian Kemp has issued a state of emergency ahead of Debby. The storm is expected to impact south central Georgia as well as southeast coastal Georgia. Governor Ron DeSantis had already issued a state of emergency in Florida.
Now, flights at the Jacksonville International Airport are being impacted right now, according to flight tracking software FlightAware. There were 35 canceled flights out of Jacksonville on Sunday. In a post on social media, the airport says it will remain open as long as airlines continue to operate. Now, you're also urged to check your flight status before traveling today. Clearly, during a hurricane, you will be seeing some delays and cancellations.
Now, if you had tickets to Sunday's canceled Jumbo Shrimp game, you can exchange your ticket right now through your My Ticket account. Now, fans can exchange a ticket for equal or lesser value to any remaining Jumbo Shrimp game.
All right. Good morning, everybody. What a morning it has been. Let's get you reset. Kind of what we're looking at as far as our alerts, our watches, and our warnings are concerned. There is still a hurricane warning in place west of Lake City right now. We're expecting another update about 9 o'clock, so we'll get that top of the hour update, and we'll see that 75-mile-an-hour wind has been measured. 74 or getting below 74 is when we would be out of the hurricane realm and back just into tropical storm. I say tropical storm, but we've got the warnings here for us from parts of Glendon up north to McIntosh County all the way into Putnam County. If you can hear us, you are underneath tropical storm warning. Those conditions very likely, and you can see what Debby is filling in. The loops here showing that which is fully onshore. I highly anticipate we'll get that official downgrade to a tropical storm in the next update. A new cone will be coming in, taking all the computer model data. That'll come in at 11 o'clock, so that'll be an important update for us as far as the forecast and as far as the timing is concerned, because there is a stall out forecast with this storm off the coast of Georgia or the Carolinas. The backside of that could bring a lot more rain to southeast Georgia as well. So we're kind of in the front end of this. We see a really heavy rain band about to make its way. Looks like it's going to slide the worst of it now on the edge of what was an eye wall, now filling in. Going to slide just to the west of Lake City. Nonetheless, driving up and down 75 right now, quite treacherous. Heavy rainfall now for the west side of Clay County, heading up through Middleburg. The Black Creek is getting a lot of water, and we heard the governor a little bit earlier mention this having impacts in the 5 to 10 day range. The storm will be long gone, but the water that'll be filling in from the Suwannee River Valley out west into the creeks, into the tributaries of the St. Johns River, the St. Mary's River. We could be dealing with flooding in the coming weeks, so we'll have to watch those river levels. You see everything lifting up through Lottie. You're getting a heavy storm that's now made its way up towards Baldwin on the west side of Jacksonville. Downtown, some heavy downpours, and that's just causing a lot of issues on the interstates. A couple of different computer models I want you to see. This in particular model has what the National Hurricane Center has been leaning towards, that sharp turn to the north as we get towards the middle and end of the week, and then up towards the northeast. The GFS, the American model, has been painting this resolution, which would be a stall out over the coast of Georgia, then backing back up, bringing a lot more rain into southeast Georgia and lingering through Thursday before moving north Friday. Hence such a wide cone once we get out past the next 36 to 48 hours. Your expected rainfall totals will be historic levels as you get up to the low country of South Carolina up towards Charleston, where they could get 2 feet to 30 inches of rain there. And looking a little bit closer, that's 7 to 8 to 12 inches possible through Glenn County. So showing you the 7-day forecast, the main impacts for today and into tomorrow, and even perhaps early Wednesday morning before we can kind of say goodbye to the immediate threats and think about that potential flooding on the rivers and the other waterways out there as well. And we work to the end of the week and get some regular old convection going. So let's get through these next couple of days, shall we? Let's get on the roads with Katie Jeffries in the UF Health Traffic Center.
We got a crash causing major delays along I-95 on the southbound side near the exit for the airport. So over here you can see it looks like maybe a FedEx truck here has kind of jackknifed because it's going parallel here to the road. And you can see it looks like maybe one lane and the shoulder is what traffic is using to try and get past this crash. Again, this is on 95 southbound near the exit for the airport. So you can see heavy delays in that area. And when we were taking a look in that camera, you could see just how much rain was coming down and all of the ponding that is on the roadway. So hydroplaning, a big risk out there today. And you add in the wind that can really kind of move you around. Conditions are pretty rough to be able to be driving. 295 southbound, that ramp from 17, you've got a crash there as well. Possible lane there is blocked. Not seeing any major delays. But whenever I look in the camera for the Buckman Bridge, it definitely looks pretty rough to be able to be driving. It almost looks like kind of blinding rain in that area. But again, we will keep watching. We're going to back it up this crash here at 95 southbound just before the exit for the airport. This is going to take some time to be able to move, so we'll keep following it.
Discuss their response to the storm this morning. We want to listen in to what they had to say as they told their crews to get ready. Again, this happened just a short time ago. Let's listen in.
Right now we've got about 9 outages on the system, a little over 800 customers out.
And how are people and your crews preparing for that?
Our crews have been technically preparing since late last week. We've been watching the storm closely and we've been preparing over the weekend. As you can see, we've got all the equipment out here ready to go. We've got plenty of material and equipment personnel ready to respond to any outages that may occur on the system.
Are there any specific areas that you're looking at paying close attention to?
Right now, the Mandarin area, usually down around Mandarin Point, they do take a lot of wind and it gets saturated with all this rain, so we do expect falling trees in that area.
Whenever you say outages, what are you seeing? Are you seeing an impact on power lines, water?
Normally when I talk about outages, I'm referring to the electric system, and most of that's going to be from down trees or outages caused by winds, limbs falling on trees, things like that.
And I know that it's an all hands on deck type of situation. Could you talk a little bit about the number of crews that are out, that are ready to work just in case anything happens?
Absolutely. We got roughly 30 overhead line crews, or actually 30 crews combined. We've got over 200 line workers ready to respond.
Okay. Are you all prepared for anything severe? I know that you all are in constant contact with the city about what exactly they're doing to prepare as well to help you all out.
Right. Absolutely. We're very prepared. We've got enough equipment, personnel, and material to pretty much rebuild any damage that the system would sustain in this kind of event.
And what message do you have to customers who are concerned if they need anything need help or anything, what should they do?
Right. So I've got a lot of information for customers. Number one is safety, right? So just please be careful around the crews. Please be mindful. Give them plenty of room to work. If there is an outage, right, they're more likely going to see a down power line or a tree falling on a power line. Please don't approach it. Call 665-6000 and report that condition. We will respond.
Any advice that you have for customers as well? I know that you already talked about staying a close distance or good enough distance from crews, but any other advice for people if they do have an outage, what they should do? I know you gave that number, but some people sometimes want to fix it themselves or try to figure out what to do without trying to call you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not try to fix it yourself, right? Safety's paramount. And please be patient. Report the outage. We will respond. We will get to you.
Now, JEA has done a lot of preventative measures since June 1st. How is that actually coming into play for a storm like Hurricane Debby today?
That's an excellent question. So we do have a very robust tree trimming cycle and a very robust pole replacement program. So what we do is we inspect our poles every 8 years. Anything that's damaged or cracked or may look like a risk is replaced. And then same with the tree trimming. They trim our circuits every 2.5 years. So our vegetation management program is very, very good. Well, the point of that is to try to keep any vegetation near the lines clear in case a storm like this were to happen. There would be less risk of a limb falling on the power line.
Right, and last question for me, what are your crews are going to look like once the storm is over? What does the cleanup process look for everyone?
Right, so we'll still have all hands on deck, usually for a good 24-hour period post-storm. We'll go to all the areas where we're at, clean up any material that was left on site, and then take care of any small remaining outages or customer connections.
I know an area that tends to see a lot of flooding and some issues is San Marco. Is that an area that you all are also focusing on as well? I know you mentioned Mandarin.
Right. We do focus on San Marco. They do sustain a lot of flooding. If they I don't think we're anticipating a tremendous amount of flooding in that area right now, but if it were to happen, we'll be ready to respond.
All right, take a look at the latest on our storm. You know what? 75-mile-per-hour winds near that center, but I wouldn't be surprised this is downgraded to a tropical storm. Doesn't mean it's over yet, though. And also, still on the back side of this, we have the inflow, and that's where we could be looking at that potential for tornadoes as we go ahead through the rest of this afternoon into evening as this all lifts off towards the north. So, of course, right now it is windy out there. We just saw a wind gust over 50 miles per hour at Jacksonville International. Still looking at some gusty conditions as this all drifts off there towards the north. There's a look at your track at this time, but we got an update coming out in just about 4 minutes.
Watching those roadways for you. This is a look towards I-95 southbound near the exit for the airport. You can see multiple lanes blocked by a truck that looks like it may have jackknifed in that area, and traffic is kind of getting by basically using the shoulder, so causing big delays.